Happy Saturday morning, everybody. Am I loud enough? You want to go there? You have a hearing aid? Don't worry about it. I'm going to be loud. Why not? We're talking baseball. Yes, we're talking baseball. No, you don't want me to sing because otherwise I'll break a Memorex glass. Not ready to do that right now, but I'll tell you what I am ready to do. I'm ready to turn it over to Mickey Callaway, who's going to introduce our first guest ever on this show, the new show here, Talking Baseball, featuring myself, Scott Morganroth, Mickey Callaway, and Tim Riggleman. I didn't want to give it away Scott. Too much, but I figured I'll just give it a little bit because that is the title of the show, by the way. So I had to at least mention the title of the show, right, Mick? Turn it over to you. Go ahead.
That's right. Scott, thanks, for that awesome introduction. Obviously, we love your energy and enthusiasm. I'm pumped up today because we have one of my favorite people in baseball, Jim Riggleman, on our inaugural show, I guess you could call this. But this guy is someone that, I have very, very fond memories with in our season together. And I respect this guy probably more than anybody in baseball. Just being around him in the dugout, the baseball knowledge is second to none. Jim Riggleman coached for several teams between the 1989 seasons and 2019 seasons, managed 1,630 games, Jim. You don't look that old, man, but that's a lot of games to be managed, and that'll wear on you. He managed 5 different major league teams: the San Diego Padres from 92 to 94, the Chicago Cubs from 95 to 99. Not many managers last 5 years in Cubby land over there. That's a feat in and of itself. That's amazing. The Mariners in 2008, the Washington Nationals in 2009 to 2011, and the Reds in 2018. As a coach, he was with the Cardinals, Indians, Dodgers, Mariners, Nationals, Reds, Mets. He took the Cubbies to the playoffs in 1998, winning 90 games, managed that Sammy Sosa season. I think Rod Beck had 50 saves that year. Kerry Wood was Rookie of the Year, I believe, that year, right, Jim?
Yes, sir.
During that 98 season, Sammy Sosa mashed 66 homers and had 158 RBIs. So that had to be really amazing to sit there and watch. So Jim, I guess my first question for you, what was it like seeing a hitter perform like that in a city like Chicago? It had to be just wild and crazy on a daily basis.
It was, Mick. That was a great year. We had so many great stories. Sammy's led the way with it. He was in the home run race with Mark McGwire, but it was a total team effort, just like it was for Mark in St. Louis. But Sammy had some good years before that, some really good years. 30 plus homers, 30 stolen bases, but all of a sudden, in 98, it really kicked in, and, some great coaching. Jeff Pentland was the new hitting coach. Billy Williams always had a big impact on Sammy, but somehow or another, Sammy started laying off some pitches that he had been swinging at before. And as I've told people many times, you could kind of hear a collective gasp in the National League of, he's not swinging at that one. And he got better counts to hit in and took advantage of the pitches that, he should be swinging at. And it was just unbelievable. It became almost a surprise when you went a couple of days and he didn't hit a homer.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot with these players. Something clicks in their mind, the one thing that they need to be able to do, lay off the breaking ball in the dirt or whatever it is. Yep. For pitchers and hitters, and everything clicks, and then they put up these amazing numbers. They get in that flow. When we were talking about this the other day on our podcast, so who was it that went 9 for 9? But that's
Bo Bichette.
And then these players just take off, and they don't lose it for several seasons.
Yeah, well, Sammy certainly got locked in, and like I said, it was a great year. But there was a lot of great stories. Of course, Mark Grace and Kevin Tapani, Rod Beck, and Kerry Wood. A lot of really good players had good years, and it was great. A great race right down to the end with us in San Francisco and the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So with that said, I'm going to ask a few questions now, Mick, because now he's got my wheels turning. And again, it didn't take much to get those. What's it like for you to have a front row seat, knowing that baseball was in the midst of recovering from the devastating 1994 strike, watching that home run race between McGuire and Sosa? That's just unbelievable. And I'll get into some of my memories of Sammy a little bit later. But let's face reality, that was
Yeah.
fun. That was exciting. That's what brought baseball back. Otherwise,
It really did. It really did. A lot of people who maybe weren't going to come back to the game or were hesitant to come out as much. Once Sammy and Mark were doing what they did in '98, it really did kind of save the game, I think. And, as you said, I had a front row seat, but what Sammy was doing and was extremely special, but pretty much from the onset of the season, we were in this mode of we think we're pretty good. We're okay. We got this kid, Kerry Wood, now. And we were in a good race. From late May on, we're in a really good race. So that took precedent over the home run race, because you never know. Is Sammy going to cool off at some time? Is he going to end up with 48 or 53 homers? And, but we still have to try to get in the playoffs. And so that took precedent over everything. Watching him do what he did was kind of a beautiful secondary thing, to tell you the truth.
That's okay. Well, I'll tell you what. May have been a secondary thing for you, but it wasn't for the game of baseball that needed it bad. And in order to recover from losing, when you lose the World Series, Jim, I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. We never lost the World Series to a World War, but we had to lose to a labor agreement. Really? Seriously? Really? Give me a break. Come on, man. No, I'm kidding. You know what I'm saying. All right, So let's talk about Kerry Wood. Okay. Obviously, he picked up his 1,000th strikeout. He was the youngest player to do that. To reach up 1,000 punch outs, doing so in 134 game, breaking Roger Clemens' mark. So what could have been is the story of Kerry Wood. I mean, Can you imagine how many more strikeouts this guy would have had if it wasn't for arm troubles and all the surgery? I mean, let me go over this stat again. It's so mind-boggling, okay? The guy being the youngest pitcher to hit 1,000 punch outs in 134 game, breaking Roger Clemens. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, Kerry, he had a great spring for us that year. He was probably the best pitcher in spring training, but we didn't keep him on the big league club. We sent him out to AAA. And after a few starts down there, it was just undeniable. He's got to be with us. We had a little injury on the big league staff, so we brought Kerry up, and he was really good from day one. And only his fifth start is when he had the special day against Houston, where he struck out 20. Right. And Houston had a heck of a ball club. But, people, again, would ask at times, do you think you pitched him too much? And my short answer to that is probably yes. In those days, it wasn't unusual for the pitcher. Dwight Gooden came in as a 19-year-old and threw like 280 innings or something, struck out 300 hitters at 19 or 20 years old. That's just kind of what we did back then. You put them out there and they pitched. When he came up sore later, we look back on it and go, wow, probably should have had him out of some of those games earlier. But I also tell people this: I would have needed security to get out of the stadium if I took him out of those games, because he was striking out 12, 13, 14 guys. If I took him out in the sixth inning, I wouldn't have lasted a year. I would have been booed out of the stadium.
Really? Well, the amazing part about the Kerry Wood story, being from the Metro Detroit area that I am, Jim, is Mark Fidrich, to me, is a story that I'm sure Ralph Houck and a lot of those people wish, wow, I mean, we rode that train as long as we could.
Yeah.
A great success story in '76. And I just think of what the words that remind me of with Fidrich as well as Kerry Wood. It's not, again, the game has changed. It's what could have been. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's not a matter, because we know that if Fidrich had lasted longer, who could have been. But Kerry Wood, to me, is just an unbelievable. And the fact that he had a chance to manage such a guy like him, really best defines really what it is, what could have been. But at least he had an opportunity to enjoy managing such a talent.
He was wonderful. And I tell you, Mick could tell you, Kerry really got it too. As a 20-year-old joining us, he understood he's a rookie. He is to be seen and not heard. That's the way it was back in those days. He didn't say a word. He might catch a little grief from Grace and Jose Hernandez and the boys, giving him a little razzing and stuff, but he was smart enough to not fight back. He just took it with a smile and he went out and did what he did, and his teammates absolutely loved him.
Yeah, Jim, I got to be around him a little bit in Cleveland when he was at the very end. He was the closer for a couple of years there. And, he was a great leader by that point, right? You could just tell he's just a great baseball guy, always wanted to help other guys. When you were talking earlier about overuse, to me, when I think of Kerry Wood and pitching, I think he's one of the first guys that because of his arm injuries, they really diagnosed that reverse, that inverted W that everybody talks about. He was the first guy that they were like, you know what? The reason he's not being able to stay healthy is because he gets in this bad position where his back elbow is really high, and he just wasn't going to last, no matter how much you pitched him. So he throwing that velocity with that breaking ball and this position, healthy position for pitchers.
He pitched in high school in the great state of Texas, and dominated Texas high school baseball. So we took him in the first round, but our people knew he's got a little bit of issue with his elbow here now, but we had to take him. And Kerry would try to protect me at times by saying, no, that was Jim didn't overuse me. It wasn't Jim's fault that I hurt my arm. He said I had bad mechanics from the onset. So, but I take my share of the responsibility. I could have taken him out of games earlier and I didn't, but it never even entered our minds that maybe we're pitching him too much at that time.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of guys that have been like that over the years. There's a Chris Sale, for example. He's a guy, you look at his mechanics and you're like, and the body type, like how do we take this guy first round? But you have to. They're so dominant. You have to take them and see what you get. If he lasts a year, that's great. Chris Sale and Kerry Wood both had pretty decent careers. I mean, obviously, really great careers. Yeah. And they didn't have the best mechanics, but they went out there and competed and got some wins. And Chris Sale, especially, how he held up for as long as he has and still out there pitching is amazing to me.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
Well, here's the problem: if you don't, somebody else will. So you're in X-22. Right. If you don't take them, somebody's going to do it. So, all right. So let's change the subject for a second here, because I want to let's put you guys both in the manager's chair. Not that you haven't been in it forever, anyhow. But let's talk about Bob Melvin. Okay, currently, Bob Melvin mentioned recently that, hate to admit this, but that we're at a point that we're benching players to look at others after their 121st game. Meanwhile, the Giants did take 2 of 3 from the Brewers. They're currently 67 and 68. Bob Melvin, I think, has done an admirable job in San Francisco. But you guys have probably been in a situation where you've had to bench players and look at other players. Can you empathize with what Bob Melvin is going through?
Well, go ahead, Mick. You want to take that?
No, go ahead, Jim.
Well, both of you are going to take it, so one of you can do it. And the other one will follow.
I think what you're alluding to is because maybe it looks like you're not going to get in the playoffs. Let's look at some younger players. Yeah, that's right. I went through that in '99, my last year with the Cubs. Okay. Coming off that '98 season, in spring training, 3 of our major contributors were banged. Kerry Wood went down in spring training. Kevin Tapani, his back was an issue. Rod Beck was having some physical issues with his back. And we started out pretty good. We did. We started out good. But when Tapani went down and, we were, and Kerry was already down, it wasn't going to last. So once we hit 500 and then we hit below 500 and 7 games below 500, we stopped playing some pretty solid players to look at what we had below. And as we brought those guys up, it showed up in our record. What we found out was these guys weren't of the same quality that we had been putting out there. So it's tough to go through, but it's a necessary evil. You kind of put yourself in that situation. You didn't win enough games, and we're going to, instead of pay these veterans, we're going to look at some younger players who will possibly be able to play and play at minimum salary.
So what are your thoughts about Bob Melvin as a manager?
Well, Bob, he's had a great career as a manager, revered by his players. So that's a tough one for him because they weren't that far out. They're out, but they're not that far out. But I think, if you're 4 or 5 games out of the wild card, but you're chasing 3 teams,
right?
That 5 games out becomes about 9 out, Okay. So maybe they're making a decision. I haven't followed that situation close enough to know who they're playing and who they're sitting, but it's an uncomfortable situation in the clubhouse too, because some guys who have given a great effort for you as a manager, now you're having to scratch them from the lineup. Creates a whole nother dynamic.
All right, Mickey, your thoughts on Bob Melvin? You painted the picture. You know exactly what we're talking about. Go ahead. Mickey? Okay. I think he's freezing up. Of course, what's the temperature out in Mississippi? Probably a little bit cooler than it is in South Florida. Okay. All right, Mickey. There's Mickey at the bat. So, no, I guess he will be in a minute. But anyways, as we continue this conversation, Bob Melvin, I look at, to me, as an excellent manager, and he's won everywhere he's gone. If you can win over with the A's, for crying out loud, you can win with anybody, knowing that he was under some tough circumstances. San Diego was a tough spot there as well, but he's managed to make his way up. So you don't stay in the game as long as you have, unless there's any issues. All right, we got Mickey back. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, the manager's responsibility is the overall health of the team. You want to win now. You want to win in the future. You have to make sure that you're taking care of the organization. And when you end up, you're out of it for the rest of the season, you have to see what you have in some younger players to see what kind of moves the team needs to make so you can improve for the next year. That's just the situation you're in. As a manager, you're trying to win every single game, every single day with the players you have. Right. And you are trying to evaluate what you have so the GM and yourself can make some pretty good moves in the offseason to improve for the next year. So, I think that once you get in that situation, sometimes you have to have hard conversations with players and tell them, hey, we got to take a look at these guys. The players don't love it, but that's the business of baseball, right? That's the business side. Right. It just has to be done. And as a manager, having tough conversations with guys is your responsibility. It's not always fun, but you have to do it so you can go out there and try to make the playoffs the next year because you failed that season.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Not only going to mix it up with serious stuff, we're going to have some fun stuff. Okay, you ready? So we're going to stay on the Bob theme. Okay, we're going to stay on it because, and I'll tell you why. Jim, you're going to get to know me as you continue to come on more of these shows. So if you think of the words off the wall, then you'll think of Scott Morgan Rock Motor. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Rays prospect Bob Seymour became the first Bob in 15 years. Get this, and then became the first Bob to hit an MLB home run since 2002, 23 years at the Rays. Bob, 15 and 23 equals a 4-digit number in the lottery, but it took 15 years to get him here and then another 23 to hit one. Where did he hit it? Deep. Or you want to hear my home run call? There's a long drive deep to left field. This one's got the distance and it's gone. Oh, I've been waiting to get that home run out there. So, look at this guy. You want it again, or is that good enough?
That was good enough.
I figured that. I had to get that home run call. I had to sell it. Please. That's okay. So, you have 2 Bob questions here. What do you think about 15 years getting there, 23 to hit it? Where did he hit it? Deep. All right, go ahead, Jim. What are your thoughts about the Bob?
All right. I got to get the question clarified here. Bob Seymour,
Yeah, Bob Seymour, the guy for the Rays.
yeah. And I'm right here in the Tampa area, and I follow several clubs, but for some reason, maybe because they moved over here to Steinbrenner Field or something, I'm not following them like I used to. But I know they brought the kid up and he hit a homer. But what is this significant? You're saying in 15 years, what has happened?
Well, first of all, he became the first Bob in 50 years to make the big leagues.
Really? That's interesting. That's a hard.
Really?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Jim, Scott finds these stats. It's unbelievable. I think
first
I
Bob
don't know where he finds
in
it.
15 years to make it to the bigs.
Wow.
Yeah, don't worry.
amazing.
I'm telling you, Jim, I have plenty more of these, brother. I'm breaking you in, man. And by the way, you live in the Tampa Bay area? Really? Whereabouts?
I'm in Reddington Shores.
Oh, I come up to the area all the time. We got to get together and have a bite to eat out
Yeah.
there. You ever go out to Tampa? I'll tell you what, I'll treat you over at Black Rock Bar and Grill up there. How does that sound?
Yeah, I don't go to Tampa much. I stay on this side of the bridge, but I great city, Tampa, and we got to. Who knows what happens with the team down here, Scott? With the Rays, are they going to be in Tampa? Are they going to be in St. Pete? I don't know.
I don't know. We're going for a bite to eat now that you're within 4 hours of me driving. Oh, but don't worry. First Bob in 15 years get to the bigs, and then it took 23 years for a guy named Bob to hit one out. How many
That's
more
crazy.
can you handle in one cotton picking?
Why do you think parents don't name your kid Bob? That's
no
if you want to play in the big.
Yeah, that is very, because that's like Bill or Steve or Jim, whatever.
Yeah, but this is Bob, man. They used to have a Bob out in Arizona called the Bank One Ballpark that they called it Bob, but there were a whole lot more dingers hit out of there.
Yeah.
That's what you missed on Monday night, Callaway, when you're having tactical problems. That's why I carried this shot forward. I got Riggleman on. I'm telling you, if you miss out on topics, don't worry. If I think they're good enough, they're coming on the show. And you just have Riggleman got a piece of that action.
Wow.
Yeah. Living out here in the country is not too great for the internet. You like the way the show's going now, brother? You having fun? You see how many come up? Don't worry, I got another one after this one. Don't you worry. So what are your thoughts about? Think about that, man. Bob Seymour. Seymour says, "Hit it out." What Simon says. I don't even know.
You know what? I hope he hits a whole bunch more, but because somebody's gonna catch on to that and bring that up. Like, how is this possible that this has happened?
That's amazing.
But, yeah.
Well, you know what the best part about it is? I got to it first. I don't care what nobody does after me.
Well, I gotta research that a little bit. I don't know how I would do that.
You want me to send you the screenshot?
Yeah.
So what? I guess the guys that are named Robert don't count, right? Like Robert Fick and those guys. But I guess
I don't know about Robert. Don't screw up my source. It said Bob. I don't know, Bob. I don't go that deep. I only go by where I get my sources. Don't worry. You got to teach Riggleman the thing about Journalism 101, the way I go about doing it. I'll have to get this guy a book anyways. And of course, he's not far away. I got that old Callaway one too. Don't worry about it. But I'll get one to Riggleman. After all, the chance he'll be in the next one when I write it. So yeah, I told you, Rich. I come up with all kinds of off the wall stuff. Don't worry, I got another one after this one here. After I ask you, so I just wanted to throw that your way. And said, yeah, I was looking forward to coming on the show, but I didn't realize I ended up coming up with an animal like him. And by the way, why am I wearing this shirt? The USF Bulls, and you know what? That's ideal for me because I am a bull, and you can hardly tell after just the first 24 minutes in this show, right?
Well, that USF Bulls, I'm a bit of a baseball nerd, looking stuff up, and I will look. I'll see a player's name, and I'll go, let me see what his background is. Where's he been? And two places that I get surprised about how often I see a player is from USF. There's a lot of big league players, pitchers especially, have come out of USF. And the other thing is the state of Georgia is producing ball players like crazy. Okay. I'll want to see where some kid came from, and what his journey to the big leagues was. And I can't tell you how many of them came from Georgia. It used to seem like Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, California, but Georgia's catching up.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. You ever met my man Eddie Cartieri?
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, did you say have I met him? I have not met him, but I know of him
Yeah,
from
he's a good
USF.
friend of mine. You ever want to hook up? Maybe we'll get together out
Yeah.
there. He's good. He's good people there. All right. So you know what? I'm going to ask you an easy question, and then I'm going to go to another off the wall thing. If you want me to go ahead and send that one to you, don't worry. I'll have your number. I can text you all this stuff. I'll let you know. I'm not dumb enough to make this stuff up. I have sources, man. All right. So does Don Mattingly belong in the Hall of Fame, Riggleman?
For me, Don Mattingly definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. I've discussed this with some other people. I'm so glad you brought this up because not only Don Mattingly, but three guys who managed in Cincinnati, Dusty Baker, Lou Piniella, and Davey Johnson, along with Mattingly. And, there's not several, but there are a number of others who had what I call a body of work in the game between their playing days and their managing days. You put them both together, for me, they got to be in the Hall of Fame. If you take their playing career, they were really good playing careers, maybe not Hall of Fame. If you take their managing careers, outstanding managing careers, but maybe not, Hall of Fame. But the two of them together is, to me, what they've done in the game is, and Dusty will get in. He's now won a World Series. He'll get in.
Right. Johnson
and Piniella, Mattingly, Fregosi is another one. Jim Fregosi had a heck of a playing career. I believe 5-time All-Star or something as a player, and won a bunch of games as a manager. And to me, he's another one should be in.
Interesting. And I love the way you said, Jim. I like to mess around between the first and the last name because that means I'm really wild. And the Diet Mountain Dew, just is kicking in really nice. Okay. So, that's what's driving this motor anyway. You can figure it out as time goes on. I didn't know that Lou Piniella wasn't in and Dusty Baker, but yeah, that's inevitability. But no, I love the words the way you said, though, Jim, about body of work. Because that to me is something that I think Hall of Fame people might want to think about body of work. I don't think they will, but it's something that people will go ahead when they watch this show and they listen to it on all the different places that's something I'll start thinking about down the road as I approach other people about it. But Don Mattingly is a personal friend of mine. He gave me an interview last Saturday over at Lone Depot Park, and he normally doesn't give many of them away, but since we've been friends for the better part of so many years, the Blue Jays said he normally doesn't do it, but obviously you guys have a good relationship, and they were happy to accommodate. And I was actually up in Toronto a year ago, and I think a year ago, I believe, and Donnie and I hooked up, and we worked together during COVID. So I'm so glad that you commented. Well, with that said, Mickey, what do you think? You think he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think he definitely does. I totally agree with Jim. Right, when you're in the Hall of Fame, it's because your impact on the game,
right?
And to be so impactful as a player and a manager, I mean, there's not many guys that have been able to do that. It's two totally different skill sets. There's great, amazing Hall of Fame players that wouldn't be very good coaches or managers. And to be able to do both and have such a huge impact on the game for so many years, those type guys definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm totally on board with what Jim is saying.
So on the Motor City Mad Mouth show, and I know you've heard of Tommy Hutton, right, Jim?
Yes. Yeah.
Tommy Hutton was on my show. Right, exactly. Tommy Hutton came on my show. Of course, Tommy and I have worked together the last few years. And he says about Don Mattingly, if you can't play for Don Mattingly, you can't play for anybody.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Hutton, he's a class act himself.
Sure he is.
Yeah. But, Don, Don had the whole package, and I'm going to throw this one at you too.
Sure.
As great a hitter as Donnie was, those, Donnie Mattingly, Gary Sheffield, Albert Pujols,
right.
Another great player, Mark Grace. These guys never struck out 100 times in a season. They did what they did. Gary Sheffield swung so aggressive. He swung the bat as hard and made contact as good as anybody who's ever played. Pujols didn't strike out 100 times. Mark was like Tony Gwynn. He might strike out 50 times in a season, that there was the the name Mark Grace is another one for me. You look at his numbers very closely. It's going to be a tough road for him, but I would love to see him get some consideration.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, Donnie Baseball is there for a reason now. Here's another thing. He's the only player in Yankees history without a World Series that made it to the Monument Park. And
Really?
The only one, yeah, you didn't know that?
Wow.
I didn't know that he was in the Monument Park.
Oh, yeah, he is in Monument Park. Yeah,
Good.
he's in Monument Park. Yeah,
Wow.
let's face it. I hate to say that the Yankees Monument Park is like consolation prize because they're really, if you can make it in there, but you're not in Cooperstown, something's all
Yeah.
wrong.
You're right.
Yeah.
But a
That's true.
consolation prize to call Monument Park. If you and I talked to him about it. And again, that interview that I had for 9 minutes, Jim and Mick, felt like 90 minutes because I piled so much up. In fact, you know what, Jim, what I'm going to do after I put your phone number in there, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go ahead and text you that interview if you want to go ahead and listen to it or watch it. Great. And you can subscribe to our channel. So I hope to have you on a lot more times after this. How's that? If you want to. But yeah, I'll send it to you. So now we're going to do something. If you thought that bot thing was crazy, I'm going to hit you with another bomb. And don't worry, Mickey's used to these. Candy Emily's going to come on here and be part of this segment, though. Here's the unknown fact of the day. On August 8th, 1889, a guy by the name of Jack Glassock hit the cycle, helping Indianapolis to a 14-1 win over the New York Giants. Jim, didn't I tell you this was going to be a wild show? Now, I can tell you, Jack Glassock, Glassock. Did you ever think you'd ever be waking up to Jack Glassock here on 8/30/2025 when he was in 1889? Did you have family members alive back then?
No.
Mom,
Well,
dad, grandpa, or whatever?
I think Callaway scouted him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably did.
In my previous life, for sure.
So how many family members did you have back in 1889?
I tell you what, that's
I did.
that's a good one there. But
Don't worry, I got
you know,
plenty more.
all those pre-1900 stories that you read about players. I mean, who knows how good they were or what the deal was, but you know, it's
Look at him, Mickey.
some
Look at the
point-
body language on Riggleman.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that time frame in baseball fascinates me. I don't know if you guys have seen that baseball documentary by Ken Burns, kind of going from the very beginning of baseball. But those guys, they were working other jobs and coming to play on, just they were grinding it out, man. Changing gloves. Some of them weren't playing with gloves at the time. Leaving their glove on the field for the next, position player. That's a fascinating time in baseball for me.
I know.
I would almost rather have those days than what we're seeing right now.
Well, let me tell you, ever since I added Callaway to 108 Stitches baseball talk, and this guy said, I could talk all night about baseball. Oh, you'll ever tell me that, because I'm going to tell you, you tell me that, I'm going to dig stuff up from anywhere on the planet. And since Callaway likes to, they always listen, I like to talk. That's why we ate along so good anyway. And I'll dig this stuff up. And don't worry, Jim. It's just a matter of time before I'm having so much fun. I got nothing better to do. I got to hang out with you guys and get more of this hay that I'll feed the horses. I'm telling you, look at this guy. I love
Scott
what
gets all
Riggleman
his
looks
crazy
like. He's laughing.
stats from.
He's having a good old time. And you know what? Guess what, Riggleman? Candy's going to give you some more information about this. Go ahead, Candy.
So this guy was, he was one of the top players during the 1880s, during the sports barehanded era. He led the National League in fielding percentages 7 times and an assist 6 times. He was the only shortstop to lead the fielding percentage and total chances in a season 3 different times. It was kind of unbelievable. He won the 1890 batting title with a .336 average for the Giants and led the league in hits twice. In his final season, he became the 6th major league player to make 2,000 hits. He was the first player to appear in over 600 games as a shortstop and ended his career with major league records for games, 1,628, putouts, 2,821, assists, 5,630, Total chances 9,283, double plays 620, and a fielding percentage of .910 at the position. He retired. He ranked 5th in Major League history in games, 1,736, at bats, 7,030, 7th in total bases, 2,630, and 8th in doubles, 313. He ended his batting average was 290. He had 2,041 hits, 27 home runs, 827 runs batted in, 372 stolen bases, and he was a player and he actually was a manager as well. So he started playing with the Cleveland Blues back in 1879. He played for the Cleveland Blues. I like some of these names, so that's why I'm going to throw them out there. Cincinnati Outlaw Reds, St. Louis Maroons, Indianapolis Hoosiers, the New York Giants, St. Louis Browns, Pittsburgh Pirates, Louisville Colonels, Washington Senators, and then as a manager, Indianapolis Hoosiers and the St. Louis Browns. And he was the National League batting champion back in 1890.
Wow.
How do you like those names, Jim?
Are you asking me who it is?
No, how do you like those names? No, I couldn't challenge you that bad.
No.
The Indianapolis Hoosiers and Cleveland Blues. What was it? Give me a couple more of those, Candy.
Cincinnati Outlaw Reds.
That's the one I was looking for.
St. Louis Maroons.
Wait. What was the one before?
The Cleveland Blues, the Cincinnati Outlaw Reds.
No, hold on. Cincinnati. See, I have to part of outlaw. See, part of the thing, Jim, you have to do is you have to hashtag too, so you can hit on some of these people. People start doing the research. I don't know if you're really to that part of the new media yet, but don't worry.
Well, who is this player?
This is Jack Glasgow.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
So Cincinnati Outlaw Blues.
Outlaw Reds.
Outlaw Reds. Okay. Yeah, no, we're still back on to Jack Glasgow. We're just talking about some of these old names that nobody will hear about until they finally listen to this show and say, holy Toledo, this actually is. Yeah, so is that enough facts about good old Jack? Indianapolis Hoosier. I didn't know about that one. I just know about the Indiana Hoosiers, but not Indianapolis. All right. Is that enough history for you?
That's good.
Speaking of history, something that always stood out to me when I was around Jim in the dugout or we're in the clubhouse, he always referenced Whitey Herzog. And Jim, just kind of tell us what an amazing, baseball mind Whitey was and how he impacted your managerial and coaching career.
Yeah, well, Whitey, it was a great honor. I was very fortunate to work under Whitey. For me, he was the best that I ever saw manage a ball game, and he was a brilliant guy. He really knew how to put a team together. He ran the New York Mets minor league system for a number of years when they had people like Seaver and John Matlack coming through the system and all that. And he ran several minor league clubs for years. Then as he went to the big leagues and coached in the big leagues, and he got his opportunity to manage. But I was with him after he had great success in Kansas City in the American League. Now he's in the National League with the Cardinals, and he kind of reinvented how people manage games. And the National League game, when the pitchers were hitting, was a great strategic game. For me, the DH, I get it, why we have a DH and all that, but the National League game was a more interesting game. Right. And Whitey was a master strategist when it came to managing the game. He kind of brought back the double switch, bringing a new pitcher in, a position player at the same time, switch the batting order. It was a strategy that had gone away. My understanding is Walter Austin did some of that with the Dodgers in the 50s. I don't know that. But Whitey, in doing that with the Cardinals in the National League, it kind of became the standard, and other people picked up on it. And really, he set the tone for how to strategically manage a game. Never mind putting a team together. He had the big ballpark in St. Louis, and he had great speed covering in the outfield, and he had Ozzie and Pendleton on the left side of the infield, so he wanted as much left-handed pitching as he could get to hit those ground balls to the left side. But wonderful man, very intelligent, could talk to anybody and everybody, regardless of where you were in life, what your job was, a cab driver, or if you were a president of the United States, he could converse with you. But, to watch him manage a game and be able to ask him some questions later was a real benefit to me.
Well, it's amazing, Mickey, how you brought up Whitey Herzog. Thank you very much for doing that, because I talked to Don Mattingly about this, and one of the players on that 82 World Series, or the World Series team, was a guy by the name of Willie McGee, who was actually traded by the Yankees, mind you, a lot of minor leaguers were, over to the Cardinals for Bob Sykes back then. And William McGee had a dynamite career. Don Mattingly and I talked about that. And, that'll segue in a moment to, Mickey, is there anything else you want to ask? Because you just segued in a beautiful way and transitioned over real well because of that. William McGee was a heck of a player. Rex Hudler was a heck of a player. Don and I talked about him. And we talked about the fact that Jim managed over with the St. Petersburg Cardinals over at Al Lang Field, which was a cool place to watch a game right by the bayfront. It really was. Yeah. And I remember spending time with Mark Bombard there when the Tarpons were playing, trying to get in the playoffs. We had some pretty interesting matchups between the Tarpons and the Cardinals back then when I was actually at University of South Florida. And I don't know if you know this, Jim, but I worked for the Tampa Tribune for a couple of years as well. So that was how I paid my way through college, as well as Hallandale Digest. So as soon as you brought up Whitey Herzog and it got my juices flowing about Willie McGee, I'll tell you, Mickey, maybe there's hope for you in this broadcasting thing after all the way you're asking these questions.
Yeah.
All you have to do is keep learning. But
you mentioned Al Lang. You mentioned Al Lang Field there in Tampa. I was fortunate enough to get to play there in my high A season when I was with the Rays, and we won a championship at that stadium. And I loved playing there, right? That was a great setup for a minor league team. You're right there in your big league city, playing in A-ball. It was tremendous. And what a great stadium that is. Are they still playing baseball? Is it soccer now, I think?
Yeah, I think the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Yeah. Jim, you're on that in Pinellas County, right?
Yeah.
If I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not in there that often. I think the Tampa Bay Rowdies were included in that new stadium thing that's going to be thrown in when the Rays ultimately go across the bridge. But another stadium that's interesting, I had a lot of good memories at El Lopez Field, but you made your way to Fort Lauderdale Stadium, and I had the good fortune to work with Stump Merrill of the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. And, of course, you talked about Jose Rio as well. And Mark Bombard just doesn't get enough credit for what he did down there as well.
Mark was outstanding. He came through the Red system, and they had a guy, Jimmy Hoff, who was there. We had George Kissel in the Cardinal organization, tremendous instructor, and Jimmy Hoff was their guy in Cincinnati, and with Ron Plaza and some other great Reds names. But Mark Bombard was mentored by those guys, and just an outstanding career he had in the minor leagues managing. He could have managed in the big leagues strategically with anybody out there. But those teams in the Florida State League really extremely talented competition. That was high A at that time, the Florida State League, and real test for players.
You see, I don't bother with the Florida State League as much because of what you just said, Jim. It's low class A, and I can't cover it now with low class A, knowing that it should be high class A. But because of the way they restructured the minor league, it's just harder for me to go there knowing there's another level or two. And it takes away from what I was actually brought up doing. Yeah. I'm sure you've ever heard of a guy named Kevin Rand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin's one of my closest friends, too, down here. And he actually lives in Lakeland, and he's doing pretty well as well. I have to tell him that we came in contact. So great stuff. Mickey, you're awesome, man. First time he's actually involved in the show asking questions. This guy's unbelievable. Like I said, there's hope for you after all, Callaway. Just kidding with you. I wouldn't have brought you on if I didn't think there was.
I think I'm really interested to ask Jim what he thinks of today's state of the game. We talked a little bit about how the National League, didn't have the DH. I loved that style of play. I loved, the pitchers hitting and the double switching. When I played and coming up through baseball, I was always in the American League. And, to get to manage for the first time in the National League when you didn't have the DH was a challenge. And being around Jim and listening to some of the ways and the strategic ways that he approached the game and thought about the game was amazing to me. We no longer have that anymore, which I think is kind of sad for the game. So what do you think about the state of the game these days, Jim?
Well, I think, the talent level is outstanding. There's a lot of great things about the game. You got to be careful, if it's me or you, Mick, you don't want to come off as what I come off as is the get off my lawn guy,
Right.
This old timer that refuses to accept today's game. I think we all accept it. We learn from it. There's things I hear and see from today's game that I learn, and I go, wow, I hadn't really thought of that. But there's just some real basic stuff that is gone away that I really appreciated. As a kid, going to my first baseball game ever. My father took me to my first game ever in a place called Griffith Stadium, probably 1960 in Washington. And as we're walking up the ramp to our seats, and I get a little glimpse of the field for the first time in my life, my eyes were like saucers, like, wow, look at that field. Look at that. It's the way it's manicured. Look at those players, those uniforms, and that's kind of gone away. The uniform is guys wear 5 different things.
Right.
Each team has 6 different uniforms that they wear on, City Connect and Pride Day. And again, I know I'm coming off as the stay off my lawn guy, but I think it's neat to, Mick, you wore a major league uniform, you played in the big leagues. That had to be unbelievable to put that uniform on the first time, but you put it on the same every day, just like your teammates did.
Yeah.
And this is who we are. You and I are the first 3 letters of uniform. It's you and I. It means one, as one, we. This is us. And that uniform kind of said that. So when I see, a Atlanta Braves or St. Louis Cardinals wearing colors, neon colors, other than what I know the birds really meant across the chest for the Cardinals, that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see addressed. The NFL does a better job of it than MLB.
All right,
Yeah,
Nick, we got
yeah.
a few other topics we have to get to, but we're going to go to
Okay.
a station break first, okay? Candy, go
Perfect.
ahead. A few more topics. Skip. You can hang with us another 15, 20 minutes or so. You got a little bit of time? Okay.
Sure.
Want to make sure we cover all bases, pun intended. All right, Candy,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has changed. Old school media versus new school media. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. And there's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great other content. So go check it out. If you want to advertise or be a sponsor of any one of our shows, you can call Scott, 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. One last thing, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, but then turn on the notifications so you're notified whenever we put up new content or a show goes live so you don't miss it. Back to you, Scott.
All right, thank you, Candy. A few more things I want to get to today, and I have 2 of the best people I can talk to them about. First of all, on August 16th, Jim and Mickey, I was watching an MLB game on Fox. The Detroit Tigers were taking on the Minnesota Twins. Twins pitcher Zebby Matthews threw 92 pitches in 4 in 4 innings. And the Twins pitching staff, get this, through 220 pitches in the Tigers win. It was an 8-5 win for Detroit. And Detroit left 14 left on base. Boy, that seems like an awful lot of pitches for a pitching staff to endure. And this time, Jim.
Yeah, it's a rule of thumb back in, when I was, really looking at how many pitches guys throw. I looked at back then, it's going to sound like a huge number now,
Right.
but 135 was 9 times 15. If a guy threw 15 pitches an inning and he went 9, that's 135 pitches. In the big leagues, I don't know that I ever had anybody throw 135 pitches. When Kerry Wood had that 20 strikeout game, he threw 122 pitches. But for a staff to throw 200 pitches, that's that's a real burden on the staff days moving forward, because now you got a game tomorrow and the next day and the next day you're gonna have to make some roster moves to get some fresh arms on the staff. So it goes back to my great friend of mine in baseball years ago was coaching. He said he says, when I was working in the minor leagues as a pitching instructor, we didn't send anybody to the big leagues if they couldn't throw strikes. Right. You didn't, it didn't matter what you did, you had to throw strikes. And some guys are coming up now and they're firing, but it's taken them a lot of pitches to get the job done, and they're done after 4 or 5 innings. And, it makes for a lot of pitches thrown in a game that are somewhere it's going to show up on the wear and tear of their arms.
I hate to say this, but I was watching that. 92 pitches in 4 innings. That was agonizing to watch.
Yeah.
It really, really, really was.
Well, that's whatever, 23 pitches in an inning,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So,
I would argue that, 135 pitches in 9 innings is way less stressful than throwing 92 pitches in 4 innings. That's something that people overlook a lot, right? They're willing to push a guy to 80 pitches in 4 innings. But then when it becomes the 6th or 7th, they're taking guys out with 90 pitches and not letting them try to go back out for the 7th. And I think that that's a big mistake. I think the way we're looking at pitch counts these days is really limiting guys, and you're taxing your bullpen. Now you've got those 220 pitch games because guys don't come up and pitch to contact anymore because everybody's trying to hit a homer. They're looking for strikeouts. I think that's the way of the game today. And when I was a pitching coach in Cleveland, they really started teaching all that, kind of uppercut, get the ball up in the air. And we were setting major league strikeout records every year. I was happy. I keep on teaching that stuff so we can strike guys out. Corey Kluber was striking out 18 guys and throwing 110 pitches in that game. Yeah. That's just craziness. That shouldn't happen. You got to get those starters out of there, grind them out, put the ball in play, foul ball, and get those starters out of there so you can beat up on the bullpen. That's the formula for success and winning.
Yeah, and I'll go back to what Jim said too. The 92 is bad, but what it does to a pitching staff when you hit 220 over the next couple of days is what makes it
right. Yeah.
Then you really have to focus on your starter to get you through 7 or 8, just to save disaster. So let's go back to another manager. Joe Torre goes on record saying, "I'm not crazy about the analytics. The game is so much about feel." Jim, what are your thoughts about what Joe Torre had to say? Do you believe that?
Yeah, you're never going to disagree with something Joe Torre says, but the thing about it is, quite often the analytics, the title of analytics, really just kind of verifies what we've been saying all along anyway. So much of it comes back to, you got to throw strikes, you got to have command of your breaking ball, hitters. You either accept it or don't accept it. The strikeout is not the way we can go as hitters, or we'll live with the strikeouts. We're going to hit enough balls out of the ballpark. Each club, I think, has got to weigh it as to what their personnel on the club is. And one thing for me, though, is when you hit a bunch of home runs and you strike out a tremendous amount of times, the the payroll, it costs a lot to have home run hitters. You can only have so many of those guys, and especially if you go to a salary cap at some point, if you have 4 home run hitters that strike out almost 200 times a year, I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I know it's going to cost you a lot of money, because 3 or 4 home run hitters who hit 40 plus a year, or that's going to eat up that's going to hit your salary cap right there. So I don't think it's going to work.
It's amazing. This is the first show I've done with you, Jim. And if I were a play-by-play guy right now, I'd have you as my color analyst. Because you ever heard of what GMTA? You know what GMTA stands for, don't you, Jim?
No.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Mickey's been hit with this a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to Mickey on this one, okay? But with that said, Jim, let's talk about the salary cap. Let's face it, get ready for one more full season in 26, because in 27 you're not going to have one, and the salary cap will be the point of contention. If Bud Selig has anything to say about it, there'll be one. We know Rob Manfred is proposing it. Do you think there will be a salary cap by the end of that next collective bargaining agreement? Jim, you brought it up already, so I want you to continue the thought.
I think that it will be a real point of contention. I think the owners are going to some variation of a salary cap, if that's the terminology they put on it. I think that's going to be a sticking point, and I think the Players Association is going to fight it tooth and nail. So I think it's, we might have a situation where they don't come to an agreement. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of compromise from both sides, probably, to not have a work stoppage, because the term salary cap, they have it in football. I don't know that they have it in basketball. I can't speak on that.
Yeah, they have one in basketball. They were one of the first ones that ever had it.
Yeah, well,
remember, once upon a time, the NBA was going broke until Larry Bird and Magic Johnson saved them.
Yeah,
those games were many years ago on tape delay, which was okay, because back then I was making salads as a kid, so I got to watch the NBA finals at 11:30 at night at a restaurant, so I didn't mind it. But the NBA was going broke until Magic and Larry Bird saved them.
Well, they did save it, like Mark and Sammy did, but in baseball. Right. But the short answer is, I think there's going to be major bickering on both sides, and whether they come to a conclusion, I can't answer whether they will or not.
Well, here's the reality. If they don't have it, what the NFL did, they're going to break the MLB union, which is tough to do. But if MLB wants it that bad, and I mean they want it that bad, they will break that union. I can't imagine me ever saying this, but it will happen. That's all I'm going to say. So, but that's why I'm glad that you stayed on one thought, and that's why I had you continue on that thought as well, because you were on a roll, and I had to let you roll with it. Thanks, Jim. All right. So,
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So with that said, Mickey, you saw the first part of the question about Torrey and the analytics and how you feel, and then you could go ahead into the salary cap one as well.
Yeah, so I answered this after a game one time when I was managing, and it caused kind of a controversy within our analytics department with the owners or whatever. But if I could sit here and clarify what I was trying to say, I totally agree with Jim. I think that analytics is great for the baseball game. But what it does is it just reinforces all the things that we have been saying for years and years. They just use different names for it than we did, right? That's what I've noticed the most about analytics. And I made this statement. I said 85% of all the analytics we've been doing for 100 years in this game. Now there's new fancy names for whatever, it might be, and WOBA and FIP and all these things, which is great to get a better understanding of how these numbers play out over a long period of time. But, another thing I said is that 15% of the stuff I didn't even know about, and it really helped me manage the game. Right. Yeah, and then it kind of came out like I was saying, only 15% of analytics is worth being in the game. And that's not what I meant. No. I meant that, the conglomerate of all the analytics, we've known 85% of this stuff for our whole lives. That's just how we've played the game.
We didn't have 3 and 4 letter acronyms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
We needed the Harvard guys to make those up for us.
I had a
Probably still
player.
do.
This guy played hard every day. I loved him. Sean Dunston.
Oh,
Sean-
I've never had. Okay.
Sean Dunston did not really walk much. So we just kind of knew that's what we have. We got a shortstop with a great arm. He can hit. He's got energy, plays hard. He doesn't walk. So we know he's going to get hits and be on base. He's not going to walk and get on base. We didn't really put a number on it. Our eyes told us that. We just know that if there's any downside to his game is he's a free swinger and he's not going to walk.
Right.
But we didn't really need a number of 298 or 301 on base percentage to tell us that, because we knew whatever his batting average was, that's how much he's going to be on.
Yeah.
And I use him as an example because our eyes kind of tell us who the good players are. But there are some things that are really useful. One of the things that I really started looking at, in whether it was analytics or whatever, was this third time through the lineup stuff. And that's why, starters are not left in games much, because the numbers started saying that third time through the lineup, the batting averages go high. So we're going to get them out. So the first sign of trouble, third time through the lineup, we don't let them pitch. We take them out. I don't necessarily think that's the answer, but I think that's the reason, is the numbers are telling us third time through hitters start getting that starting pitcher. So, that was a number that I thought could be usable.
Well, it's amazing. I'm sorry, Mickey, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jim, right? That third time through, the numbers do get drastically worse. The one thing that I always questioned when I was trying to make decisions based on that is we didn't really have much evidence on how taking that starter out and very early in the game affects you as a team and your win totals for the whole season, because all of a sudden now we're using our bullpen more and more. Other teams are getting to see our bullpen guys more and more. And, how does that play out? So when I was thinking about analytics, when I was managing, all of these questions usually came to my mind. Like, we know that if you leave a starting pitcher out there for a longer period of time, yes, they have a little bit more success the third and fourth time through. But we've never experienced the game with those starters being taken out so early. Now we're using 5-6 relievers on a daily basis. How does that affect the game? We didn't have evidence. We didn't have a 10-year, evidence-based decision-making on how that affects the game. Yeah. So all of these things, when we're talking about analytics and changing the game, it's going to come back full circle, because I think that now we're going to have 10 years or 15 years of evidence on, okay, well, now we've used relievers for 5 innings of the game, and, maybe that's not as productive as leaving a starter out there and seeing if he can get through that third or fourth time. So you have to question all these things. It's not questioning it because it's bad. It's just questioning it because you have to use your brain to make the best decisions possible. And sometimes the feel is, hey, our bullpen's worn out. I can't afford to use these relievers like this for the whole season. So I got to take a chance with my starter, that third and fourth time through, and see if I can get through the game. And maybe we win 7-6.
Jim, when we bring it back, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to come down with a lot of lists of the rule changes and other things that we could go deeper into this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
How's that? I don't have time to do it today, but I promise you I will do that. But Mickey, you bring up a great point. One guy I've been watching a lot more lately is AJ Hinch, and the way he's able to maneuver through it. And he'll be down in Miami in a couple of weeks. I'll see if I get a chance to pick his brain a little. Won't have a lot of time because I have a lot of Detroit media in Miami and all that. But I'd like to do that one day in a future time we'll do that. But one thing I do want to get to tonight, which I think it'll be a good way, a fun topic, and then when I get done with this, Mickey, I'll let you wrap it up with whatever questions you may have left. Want to make sure that we're able to keep the continuity going with both of us asking questions and us hitting a lot of the major things that we can have a lot of fun with certain things that Mr. Riggleman here that will probably hasn't heard a lot in his managerial days. You know, certainly in his managerial days that nobody ever mentioned a guy that was played in 1889 and some of the Bob stuff that we've hit him with today. And don't worry though, when he comes back more often, at least he knows he'll get more of this. Oh, well, I know I've been there and done that before with this guy. But let's talk about the grinders in MLB history. Okay. And that's this. I'm going to mention a bunch of names and then you can give me your opinions. We all know that Pete Rose is known for Charlie Hustle. Dustin Pedroia of the Red Sox played with 100% effort. You also know that Lenny Dykstra, Nails known for his hard play. David Eckstein, undersized, two-time MVP. Chase Utley, his hard nose, always run hard. Brett Gardner, known for long at bats and hustle. Paul O'Neill, the Warrior, known for intensity. Howie Kendrick, professional hitter, and always clutch. How do you like that group of individuals, and which ones intrigue you the most out of this group? And Mickey, once you hear Jim Riggleman, you can comment on it as well.
You know, all of them, really. I mean, I managed against some of those players, and, you know, like you say, grinder, that's a great word. They grinded. They were in the lineup every day. You know, there was no, the term they use in basketball, load management. No, there was, those guys played. When you managed against the Braves, it was, you know, Freddie Freeman, Josh Donaldson, you know, every day they were in there. They had 5 position players on their team. Markakis, they had 5 guys in their lineup who led their positions in games played. You know, they were grinders. They played through bumps and bruises. This thing of rest, no, you get ready to play. And all those names you just mentioned, I greatly appreciate them. You know what they did in the game and how much they played.
Well, let's not forget Cal Ripken Jr. Let's not forget the reason that they didn't break the union before is Major League Baseball would have been in trouble if they didn't get that consecutive game streak either. You know, we've talked about McGuire and Sosa, right? But let's not forget Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive game streak had a lot to do with the recovery of the sport as well. And I'm glad he ended up breaking a record that we know will never get broken anyway. And you know what we're going to do one of these days, Jim? We're going to talk about some of the all-time greatest records that will never be broken as well. We're going to make it fun for you. So we want to give Jim Riggleman, Mickey, an opportunity to want to come back as often as he wants, because he's going to realize he's dealing with an old-school guy himself that can sit here and talk old school as good with anybody as well. But it's just amazing when we talk about Cal Ripken Jr. and load management. I'm just glad you brought up the word load management, because that's what's killing the NBA. And that's why Charles Barkley is having a field day talking about it and letting these guys have it.
Well, I'm glad he's talking about it, because it's really, I mean, if you're hurt, you can't play. You know, if you've got a serious injury, you can't play. But I mean, if you're a little banged up, let's go.
Well, he's in my book, by the way, Jim. You'll see it when I have a chance to sign it over to you. So with that, and don't worry, Mick, you're getting your copies before long too. So I gave you a list of players. You know who they are?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I love that those guys are grinders, and that's what we need to have in baseball. You know, it's a 162 game season. It is a grind. You know, and if you can't grind it out, then your team's just not going to have the success it should. You know, I'm all for resting guys when they need rest. Right. And I'm all for resting guys if you have another guy on the team that can step up and fill in for that guy. But a lot of times, 80% of somebody's, you know, because they're a little worn out, is better than the guy you got sitting on the bench. So suck it up, go out there and play. That's the best thing for the team. I think we're missing that part of it a little bit, right? You know, you can stay healthy, and you know, if you're just a little tired, you can still perform better. You know, the real quality players can perform better than the guy you have sitting on the bench that, you know, should only be there when that guy really, really needs a rest, if he's, you know, in danger of getting hurt or if he is injured.
Yeah.
On the bench.
Well, you know what?
You know, you want your starters out there every day.
I've covered what I want, Mickey, so I'll let you finish off the show, and then Candy will finish it off with a station break. Jim, I'm so proud of you the way you've handled this barrage of questions, and I hope you're having fun with your first act here. Now, you may be the first guest on here, and one thing after the first or second guest, you're trying to work out the kinks. But you know what's so impressive about this show, what I've noticed here, and I'm a very critical person because I've been in it a long time, there are no kinks to work out when you have chemistry like the three of us have been able to develop all day long with Candy filling in the blanks. I've never seen a show, Jim and Mickey, sincerely, despite all my energy you got a little bit earlier, including surviving my home run call and my deep stuff. Okay. But I've never seen so much synergy in one show like this, and I have seen today. It's been so pleasant, Jim, to have you on the first time. Mickey, you're getting really great with every show that we're doing. I mean, I started this guy with he came on my show the first time, Motor City Mad Mouse show, and we did a one-on-one interview there. Then he graduates 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Then he graduates there. Now he's get 2 shows a week, and then we're doing this. I mean, that's just a progress that I've enjoyed with Mickey, and now to drag Jim into this whole equation is just even better. And whoever else we bring on as well. But with that said, Mickey, the floor is now yours, and you can ask whatever questions you want. I just have to make sure that as I do these shows, that I cover what we have to cover and get to the agenda at hand. And thanks for being patient, Jim, about what we've had to do. I appreciate you big time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get to the other side of the state. Go ahead, Mick, and remind you, Candy Eppley will finish off the show with a station break, and I might say hello before it's over with. All right, Jim, and well, go ahead, Mickey, take it away.
Thank Jim for coming on.
Unless I have to deal with another freezing situation, I have to fill in the blank.
I think we lost Mick.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize that being. Oh no, David Copperfield was part of the job. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it isn't in on this time. Go ahead, Mickey.
No, thanks, Jim, for coming on. I know we've monopolized his time. He's got some football to watch today. Jim is one of the guys that I admire the most in baseball, and I was so fortunate to have him, standing next to me in the dugout. There's no better guy to have next to you in the dugout than Jim Riggleman. So we appreciate you coming on, Jim, and we'd love to have you anytime. Anytime you want to talk baseball with us, let me know, and we'll reach out to you. And we've really enjoyed it.
Well, I've enjoyed it too, Mick. And, I got to say this, when I had my 1 year with the Mets with Mickey there, and, we won 86 games. Mick did a great job. And, we had a nice ball club. We made a run at the playoffs. I wish Mick would have been retained there because he did a great job. He treated me with such respect. He's become one of my favorite guys in the game. And, if Diaz has become such a great reliever, but the one bad year he had was when you had him. Yeah. I mean, we could have won 93 or 94, but
absolutely
he just didn't have the same type of year that he usually has. And, that kind of hurts you. But, you made all the right moves. I loved working with you, and I hope I can get back on the show again with you.
Well, Jim, let me add something else too, if you don't mind me mentioning this before you go. Number one, I worked with Mickey for a couple of years when he was with the Mets up in St. Lucie. And when he answered my difficult questions with the class and dignity that he did, and he answered them in such a way, I knew in my mind when we became Facebook friends, this guy is going to be with me and we will be working together. And I approached him about the idea of being my tag team partner, and he was gracious enough to accept it. So I hope I wasn't too much for you to handle, Jim, today, because if I am, it only gets worse as I get more caffeine and get louder and I bombard you with more facts. And no, we're not talking about bombard. I'm talking about bombard as in more facts. And if you wonder where all the one-liners come from, I'm hoping to write a book with all of them, but the problem is I don't remember any of them, so it doesn't matter. So,
look, I appreciate it. I'm going to
that's okay.
I got to give my computer back to my girlfriend here. She's my technical support, so I'm gonna have to get off here. But I really appreciate being on.
You tell your girlfriend that we want to give her a special thanks for having her help you out. And Jim, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. But thanks so much for being on the show. And with Jim leaving, Candy will have a last-minute station break, and we'll wrap it up. We're going to watch a little bit of football, too. Thanks again for being on, Jim. God bless you. I look forward to meeting you.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. We'll be in touch, Mick.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40 plus years in the business and how it has evolved. Old school media versus new school media. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. So especially if you like Florida sports, especially college, we have Miami Hurricanes, we have FAU Owls, the USF Bulls, Florida Gators, Florida State Seminoles. So go check out our website. If you want to sponsor a show, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Again, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to our channel. I don't know what you're waiting for. Honestly, we have great content like this show today. Oh my gosh, unbelievable baseball talk. Go click it, like us, share us, and then hit the notification button so you get notified anytime we go live so you don't miss any of these great programs. Monday nights, we talk baseball on 108 Stitches. Tuesday night, Inside the Pigskin is football. Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange, we cover every topic, and I'm saying every topic from cornhole to hot dog eating contests to NHL, NFL, all of it. The same on Fire Up on Thursday nights. So, again, subscribe to our channel, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and turn on that notification button. Scott, back to you, but this has been an absolute delightful show. I loved listening to all the baseball talk.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Jim Riggleman comes as advertised, Mickey. He did a really great job, and I'm looking forward to us bringing him back. And I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much with all my crazy behavior.
You were great, brother.
If I did, then life is what it is. Because when I meet the guy in person and I autograph my book over to him, he's going to get it in person. But I'm going to tell you something, Mickey, and I don't mind saying this while we're on a live stream. And the time that I brought you here, you have really, really, really come a long way. I think that the one thing I really took away from this show more than anything, because obviously up to this point, being on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, is this is what this show is really all about anyways, is the opportunity to bring a guest on there and be able to approach a lot of important topics like we did, but feature the guest and now be able to see you feature your interviewing abilities, which I know you had. It's just a matter of putting you in a situation to do it. And I think that when you bring a guy like Jim Riggleman, who's a baseball lifer in every sense of the word, I was impressed with this guy. I really am. But I'm impressed with you. It's all about your development. And as we continue to build ourselves as a team, which we obviously do, I'm going to put you in situations, Mickey. There might be nights where you're on the Sports Exchange where we'll talk a little ball, other sports. And if you think I'm crazy with some of this other stuff, well, you see me hit you with stuff with non-sports related stuff. Because the one thing I'm going to guarantee you won't be is a one-trick pony.
That's right.
You never know.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Scott. You know, having a guy like Jim on and his baseball knowledge and just all he's been through in the game is so special. And I hope everybody watching got to see, and hear a little bit of a glimpse of, a true baseball lifer who managed this game, 1,600 games managed. That's impressive. What a great person. Manager and baseball guy.
Well, I guarantee you one thing he learned. He knows who Jack Glassock is. Sometimes the best parts you get frozen. You there, Mick? Jack Glassock, everybody, Google him because we won't be talking about him. I'll find somebody else. Mickey is still there. I hope so. But anyways, this has been a lot of fun here today on Talking Baseball. Name it. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Mickey Callaway and Jim Riggleman on this Saturday morning, August the 30th, 2025. College football is the rest of the day, but we're glad we had an opportunity to get you going with baseball this morning. And we look forward to our next episode Hopefully we'll have Mickey back in a moment. But meanwhile, Candy, you mentioned it before. Any other closing thoughts that you want to add before we get going? Probably not. But anyways, that does do it for this edition of Talking Baseball. Or maybe it doesn't. All right, we got Mickey back. Okay, so anyways, as I mentioned here, at least the one thing that we know about Jim Riggleman is he knows who our buddy Jack Glassock is, and he knows
That's
about the
right.
Bob situation. And Bob made an appearance. So it's been a lot of fun, and we'll continue to build off of this show as well. It's been an awful lot of fun, and I enjoy having you on as my tag team partner, but we have a lot more ahead of us as well. So any closing thoughts other than that?
I'm good, man. That was a great show, and we'll keep it up. Let's see what great guest we can get for next week.
That sounds good. But meanwhile, there will be no shows on Monday night, but Mickey Callaway will be joining the Sports Exchange on Wednesday night at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be something different that he's never experienced before. He'll usually be on Monday night because there is no Monday night. We can't go another week without Mick, man. We just can't do it. So we're going to bring him on the Sports Exchange. He's going to be in for a new experience. But meanwhile, we hope everybody's enjoyed this experience. It only gets better than that. So on behalf of Mickey Callaway, Jim Riggleman, my name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth. Candy Ebling was our producer and our researcher. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Have a great Labor Day weekend, everybody. Be safe and enjoy all the sports going on. Good night. Good afternoon, everybody. Bye now.
Yeah. Take care.
Or morning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Bye now.